And we have a lot of stuff going on in our nation today. Seems to be the way I start off every show now, because we do have a lot of stuff going on in our nation, and it seems like it's adjusting, it's ramping up every week, and there's something new going on. So you know, we're so long. Every time you turn on the news, you're looking at the insurrection. You're looking at the challenges to those folks who attempted to overthrow our government. We're looking at all that stuff, and then all of a sudden it stops. And now every news channel is focused on the virus, the coronavirus, and now the Delta variant and all this stuff, man. And wearing masks, taking vaccinations, and who isn't and who is, and all this stuff, man. And it's kind of difficult to take in. It's kind of difficult to know who to believe, really. And so then we're stuck. Being ridiculed if you're taking the vaccination, being ridiculed if you're not, being ridiculed if you're wearing a mask, being ridiculed if you're not. It doesn't matter. It's that same old societal ill. Whatever side you happen to be on, you're going to ridicule the others. And it's very confusing to most folks. And the only folks who it's not confusing to are those who've bought into a particular way. Whether they know it's true or not, there is a comfort in signing up for a particular team, knowing you're on a side. And it's not important if the side is actually sensible, knowing exactly what they're talking about. But you're comfortable. And I was talking to this one guy, and he was talking about the vaccination. He was all really into it. And I'm like, well, what's in it? We don't know what's in it. We're putting it in our bodies, But we do that all the time. Come on now. Drug use, alcohol use, a lot of the foods we're eating, the type foods we're eating, we're killing ourselves anyway because we don't know what's in there. Like we're eating a particular food forever, for years and years, and all of a sudden it comes out, we're not supposed to be eating that, because it's killing you or whatever. I kind of grew up that way, in the 70s as a kid, your parents let you eat all kinds of candy, all kinds of pastries, anything you wanted to eat. You wonder why you had cavities every time you went to get a checkup. So many kids were not in great health. And we find out later, our parents who loved us, they're still allowing us to eat all that crazy foods, man. Because we don't eat that stuff today, or we shouldn't be, because we know now, okay? So we put this vaccine in our... So when I told the guy, I said, we don't even know what it is. He said, yes, you can. You can Google it. And there's a whole list of all the stuff that's in it. But I don't mean what it is. I mean what it is. What are you putting in there, because you just don't know. And, but anyway, with most of the stuff that we, like medicines we take and all that, we don't know what's in it. But I'm always amazed, when I'm watching those television commercials about particular drugs. You have this particular thing, take this drug, or this issue, take this drug. But the possible side effects seem to be worse than whatever the issue is you're taking the drug for. Could lead to death. Really? Was my issue that bad? Well, anyway, so we're just in a pickle today because we just don't know. Okay. And so now they've come up with the Delta variant. Jeez, man. I mean, and they're blaming it on the people who aren't wearing masks. And so I'm thinking, man, and who aren't vaccinated, especially. And man, so it's just getting worse and worse, and it's just hard to know what truth is because the people you want to trust are battling it out amongst themselves. And then when you have a situation, I guess Reagan and him fixed so that the pharmaceutical companies can't be sued if it goes awry, and you certainly can't sue the federal government. So they're talking about forcing people to take this vaccine, and there is no remedy if they're wrong. Okay, and that's the very important part. That's what I talk about wrong today, because I'm thinking about this Delta variant. And man, it's supposed to be like way, way worse, than the original COVID-19 that was like killing all those folks. And so I'm trying to look at this thing objectively, and so then I'm remembering back. Because I saw on Facebook, just yesterday as a matter of fact, one of my Facebook friends, pretty smart woman, but she was like really irritated and exacerbated with the people who are not taking that vaccine. And she was like, just take the vaccine and, look at this thing you've created, blaming the Delta variant, whatever, on those who have not taken the vaccine. And so now this is, listen, the urban commentary. So, you know, it's funny. A couple of days ago, I was having lunch with friends of mine, white friends, my wife and I and them. And so he and I were discussing, and you know, he was really irritated about all the people that haven't had the vaccination. And he's a white guy. I think he's talking to me about black folks, but he just doesn't want to say black folks, you know. What I had to express to him is that we have different worldviews in this nation, white folks and black folks. We have culturally influenced views about trust in this nation. Okay. Now this was a Jewish guy that I was speaking to, and you know, he should, you know, if you go back far, he has some issues. He has some issues too, you know, with the Holocaust and during World War II. And I've seen him on Facebook, you know, commenting on those, you know, that because of his culturally influenced worldview. But as black folks in this nation, we are influenced as well, and we have an issue of trust in this nation. It's very difficult. And so it's hard for black folks to simply buy into the party line simply because this is what they're saying. Because we're reminded of the Tuskegee experiments. where they're supposed to be giving these folks, you know, some injection. They injected them with syphilis and didn't cure them just to watch and see the effects of syphilis. Sort of like the Nazis did with the Jews, you know, during World War II. I mean, we have had tremendous medical advancements due to the Nazis' experiments on the Jews during World War II. They used them as guinea pigs, okay? And it was a terrible thing, and this is what was done to the black folks in Tuskegee as well. And these are just the things that we found out about. So we have a difficult time, you know, in this community as black folks, trusting, you know, white folks. Not all. Many of us buy into the party line because we want to trust. You know, we desire to trust. We want things to be well, but it's not that easy. And then when you have half of the politicians saying one thing, half the politicians saying the other thing, and both sides ridiculing each other. And so I'm thinking one of the issues that we have in this nation as black folks, which kind of puts us at a disadvantage, is how we have bought into the party lines even though we are not part of the party. Okay? It's sort of like the voting, you know, where you're encouraged to vote, you're courted from particular parties to embrace their party line. And so then you make that move and you choose a side, but once that side comes into power, into authority, you're kind of forgotten, okay? And so we fall into that because we just desire to be loved, you know? We just want to be wanted and all. We want to feel like we're really on a side, you know? I think we got to experience that with Colin Powell, a staunch Republican, all up until Obama was running for president. Then he realized there's a bigger story. And see, we do that, you know, because we are talented, you know, as African Americans, as black folks in this nation, that whatever the situation is, we're able to make the best of it and often surpass those around us, you know, who had a tremendous head start. Okay, but I think the problem for many of us is we do forget who we really are. And so what Colin Powell demonstrated to us is, no, he was successful in that world that he had to function in, very successful. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, General, and all that stuff. But when the rubber met the road, when it came down to who he really was, yeah, he decided to vote for Obama because he recognized that no matter how successful he was in this, you know, particular environment, he's still a black man. And we are not treated the same. Even this general realized that. So us, on a much smaller scale than being chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, we buy in to this societal because we have a modicum, we have a slight, a bit of success, and we forget who we really are. We forget the situation, you know, that we're in. And so we've bought into it. So then when you're talking about the coronavirus and the variant and all that, yeah, and then you look at the demographics of the people who are really, really being affected by it, even from the beginning. It was older folks and out of shape folks, people that were unhealthy, had other health issues. Those are the people that were being affected by it. But what I want to share with you as far as the older folks were concerned, because it's assumed and pretty much true that people in a certain age group are suffering from many of these ailments. So it really wasn't never about the age of an individual, it was about the health of the individual. And it's assuming that if a person is in his 60s, he's going to have these health issues. So unhealthy people are being affected. What I'm suggesting today, if you go back into our history, you're not going to find too many slaves that were out in the field working hard labor. There weren't too many overweight slaves. There weren't too many of them suffering from diabetes back then. All that stuff came with freedom, with prosperity, with identifying, with the culture outside of your own within this nation. So we have in our communities a lot of unhealthy black folks that are unhealthy and obese and diabetes and all these issues at an early age. And so we are sick and we're unhealthy, and especially when we get older, we're unhealthy. And I've been on this program for years and years now, trying to encourage our folks to eat more healthy, to exercise and all that stuff. Even put out challenges, to exercise for 3 months in a row or 6 months in a row, whatever, just trying to get us on the right track. And so what I'm suggesting today is that there are ways to avoid what has commonly affected the masses in this nation is to be healthy, is to eat right, is to exercise. Try to eat right and try to exercise more, be better off than you were. This is what I've been. But now we're at a point where it's too late. We're stuck. And so we're not healthy enough to be healthy in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this situation. And now we're faced with not even knowing, to take the vaccine and not to take the vaccine. Guys, remember who we're dealing with? How do you trust that? So we're in a dilemma right now. We need to just get ourselves together. Remember who we are and use this situation as an opportunity to get ourselves back in shape, to get ourselves back in a physical condition where you're not relying, on your oppressor for the truth. Because it's just kind of fishy. The way first we had the COVID issue. Man, it was terrible. Those people get sick and dying and all that. And then we had the vaccines were finally coming, trying to get everybody in the country vaccinated by a certain date. And then it didn't happen. People were just not buying into it. And then all of a sudden, so we had a lottery to try to get folks to get the shots. And after all that failed, Delta variant popped up, which is probably a result of the vaccinated people and the mutated Delta variant not being affected by the vaccination. Just in a bad position today, and it's just very difficult to know who to trust. And what's interesting about the Delta variant, the mutation, which was probably created by the vaccinated people, because we're vaccinating en masse all over the world, millions of people in this country and that country. It was almost like a competition between which company would have the most vaccinations without even recognizing or considering the mutations. And so here we are. That's why they're telling them. Now, once they begin to realize this Delta variant is the mutation that was probably created because of the vaccines, now they're telling vaccinated people, put your mask back on. Because you not only can carry the disease, you can give it to other folks. So if you're vaccinated, here we go. If you're vaccinated against the original COVID-19 virus, coronavirus, and now there is a Delta variant, and they're saying that the vaccinated people can infect unvaccinated people. Well, what are they infecting them with? They've had the vaccine against the coronavirus. The mutated Delta variant is not affected by the vaccination. That's what they're passing, or the potential to pass to unvaccinated people, is the Delta variant, which they are carriers of simply because the vaccine had no effect on the mutated Delta variant. Put your mask back on. It reminded me when I was at boot camp. And I was in my last weekend at boot camp. And man, so we're getting out. Next week we're graduating. And the instructor, he was gone, for the weekend, just left us in there, man. So I got into my Foot Locker, got out my civilian clothes, put them on, just like me. I'm running around, laughing and joking with my civilian, with my leisure suit, remember those? All of a sudden the TI walks in. He says, "Jarvis, get out of those GD clothes. You ain't out of here yet." That's sort of what the coronavirus is telling the vaccinated folks. You ain't out of here yet. And as I understand, the FDA had not really approved these vaccinations. And the initial vaccinations, they're authorizing use of vaccinations before they're approved. It could only be done in emergency situations. Now, once that emergency was over, they continued vaccinating without FDA approval to as many people as they can, millions of people. They shouldn't have done that. They should have waited to see what the results were with the few once they satisfied the emergency. So, yeah, we're in a bit of a pickle now. So I'm suggesting as black people today in this nation, we just need to exercise, eat right, get in shape. Use this as your wake-up call. But now the way it works is, you might exercise now, might try to eat right, do what you need to do. But once the situation has subsided, we have a habit of going back to the way things were. Don't do that. Don't do that, because there's probably something else down the pike. You ain't out of here yet. We probably never will be. And so for me, I have to take issue with doctors as well. Because I've had some situations. Because when you're in a particular business, although it's about healing people of their illnesses, if there's a lot of money involved, potential money to be made, it's a business. Just like college is a business. But when something is a business and an individual has opportunity to make a profit off of it, and you're going there simply for help, they're going to make sure they still get paid. It's a business. So of course, it's come out. There have been surgeries that weren't necessary. There have been procedures that weren't necessary. I remember I got a bee sting once as I was a mailman in West Dayton, about 25 or so years ago. And I'm allergic to bee stings. So I was having this anaphylactic response. It wasn't a terrible one, but I didn't know about it till I Googled what I was going through, man. So I went to emergency, and that's what I was told. So the emergency guy told me to go see my doctor. I went to my doctor the next day. She was off, but there was a guy in there taking her place. He was a doctor. And he was checking me out, and he said, "Man, you need to come in here. We're going to have to put you into an almost death sleep, inject you with some dye, and then have you come in here and check." I'm like, man, I just got stung by a bee. No, he was saying, "I have a feeling it's worse than that." Come on. I knew what it was. But see, he was trying to get me to sign up for what was probably going to make their company $50,000 or $60,000. I just didn't go back there. Matter of fact, I fired them as my doctor because I knew what it was. But their ulterior motive, because that was a business, he was trying to sign me up for a procedure that wasn't going to be good for me. Come on, it can't be good for you if they're giving you drugs that's knocking you to almost a comatose state. Then they're injecting your body with dye. Come on, it's not going to be without consequence. But it was going to make them a lot of money. And see, that's what we're dealing with here today. So it's hard to know what truth is, because people, all you got to do is turn on the news broadcast and watch these politicians who will say whatever they need to say simply to stay in office, simply to make that money. You have the politicians that are taking money from influential groups, from lobbyists to say or to vote for whatever they want simply because they're putting money in your bank account. We have congressmen today that have a heads up on certain businesses, and they can make investments based on insider information, and it's not even illegal for them So we are victims. Who do you believe when folks are motivated by money? You can't. So the only thing you can do is take care of yourself. Make sure you're okay. I was speaking to another guy, man, and we were talking about the conspiracy theories. Talking about the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, and all the other. There's so many conspiracy theories out there. Who knows if they're true or not? They're just conspiracy theories. But the people run rampant with those. And they worry about those, concerned. There's one guy, he was concerned about the Democrats. This was right after the election. Democratic Party of the Democrats were trafficking in children, and they were going socialist, and they all did. I mean, all this stuff. Man, I talked to this guy before the election. Real nice guy. Now, I'm not political. I don't consider myself a Republican or a Democrat. I voted for Reagan once. You know, I have an AR. I mean, I have weapons. See, I'm not, that's why I'm not really political. And but this guy was, and it was just before the election. He was a Republican. Nicest guy, a business owner, a successful business owner. I'm talking to him, and he is literally worried that if Biden won, we would become a socialist government, a socialist nation. I tried to assure him it didn't matter who won, we're not going to become socialists. Man, I've been in the workforce. I mean, I joined the military when I was 17. I'll be 63 in a couple months. 21, I'll be 63. And we've had Republicans, we've had Democrats back and forth, my whole life. I've been unemployed for 5 months about total in my entire life, okay? And I've been okay. So I had to assure this guy it didn't matter who won, we were not going to become socialists, okay? He still didn't believe me. And now after the fact, he sees we're not a socialist nation. I mean, we still have the bickering back and forth across the aisle, but we always survive, okay? And so that's what I was sharing with him. We need not. What my perspective is on conspiracy theories is this: even if they're true, okay? Suppose the wealthiest men in the world have all gotten together, and Obama and Bush and all these guys are distant cousins. Actually, we're all distant cousins to each other, But beyond that, it doesn't matter if even some of them are true. In our little bubble of existence as individual citizens, we can be successful. We can be well, we can be healthy if we just make the right decisions, make the right moves. Have yourself a 401k, have yourself an investment property, have yourself some IRAs. Make some moves so that you will be well no matter what goes on in the larger scope of our society, our nation, or even our world, okay? And this right here is an example as well, man. You don't know what's going on with this virus. You want to believe it, but everybody's talking a different game. So the best you can do is take care of yourself. And this was the situation before the virus, before the coronavirus. You should have been eating healthy. You should have been exercising every day. You should have been taking care of yourself, getting an education. Quit smoking weed, quit drinking alcohol. Just get yourself together 100%, especially as black folks in this nation. Man, we are still at war. Now, we're not in a physical war, armed conflict, or any of that kind of stuff, but we are in a war for our liberties, a war for our equal rights, totally. Now, again, just like with the conspiracy theories, although there's a lot of these issues going around, oppressiveness against black folks, I am pretty much unaffected. Because I'm trying to take care of my business, do the things I can do, and you can pretty much, even as a black man in this nation, raise yourself above all the chaos and oppression that's directed toward black people. By taking care of yourself, no matter what's going on in the wider scheme of things, in your little world, you can be successful. And to me, the foundation of success is your health. For real. Man, I was talking to some folks on social media recently, and they were comparing the statistics on the demographics, the age demographic of people who are actually investing in their 401k. And it was pretty dismal, okay? It was pretty dismal because people really aren't looking toward the future like that to put much of their now money into an account that's going to benefit them later, because we're thinking now, okay? And they were like really ridiculing folks who really weren't putting much into their 401k. So later in life, they're going to have to be, accountable for that. They're going to wish they had. But I knew the people that were putting forth these stats, these people that were ridiculing the folks who weren't financially managing their futures well, and these people are unhealthy. Because they're not taking care of themselves physically. They're not exercising, they're not eating right, they're not doing any of the things that they need to be doing for their physical. So really they have the same issue as these individuals who are not investing for the future. These individuals are not investing for their financial future. But these individuals were not investing for their physical, their health future, okay? And so what I'm saying is the majority of Americans who are really not investing in their future anyway because of their health, their negative health choices, they're probably not going to be living that long to experience the negativity from their poor financial investment choices. But I'm saying is this is our issue today. Especially as black folks in this nation, we don't prepare for the future. Now my theory is that this is a carryover from slavery as well. And even the subsequent years after slavery, where there was still much persecution, and the lifespan of a black man still wasn't, all that great, that black folks lived from day to day. That black folks realized that tomorrow was not promised. That's why the whole religious thing in the black church was about, getting to heaven. I'm going to put on my shoes, I'm going to dance all over. That whole thing was because tomorrow was not promised. And so the only hope was either after death or today. That's why, on Sundays you go over to Big Mama's house and you got ham, you got turkey, you got every kind of food you can imagine. That's killing you physically, but every kind of food you can imagine. I'm sure back in the days, the slavery or even after, the black folks would bring all of their foods together from different households and they just have big old feasts. Eat like crazy because tomorrow wasn't promised, okay? And so we kind of live like that. Even today, now that those situations don't exist, we live as if there's no tomorrow. But guess what? Usually there is tomorrow. Usually there is next week. Usually the next year, usually there's 20 years from now. We might not be physically well, but oftentimes we live. And there's nothing worse, I think, well, there are other things worse, but it's pretty bad to be physically unwell, old, and physically and financially unwell at the same time. We need to make some choices. And so I think the situation our nation is facing today, the dire situation and the hopelessness of even knowing which way to walk, should give us, a clue on how to prepare ourselves for our future. Because this will pass. This will pass and most of us will still be alive. But use this as an opportunity to get yourself together. Start even now. I've seen too many people get sick and then stop smoking cigarettes, get cancer and then try to stop smoking cigarettes. Or have cirrhosis of the liver and now I'm going to try to stop drinking. Have all